Oh my goodness, stock losses deepen as Iran war looks to intensify. Ladies and gentlemen, like and share. Oh my goodness, what a newsreel we got today. Oil prices pumping again, rise as the U.S. stocks fall ahead of Trump's deadline for Iran. The line in the sand has been drawn. Is this World War III? Delta joins the growing list of U.S. airlines raising check bag fees as jet fuel costs soar. Hyperinflation and then stagflation. Peter Schiff is reporting saying this next GFC is going to make 2008-09 look like the quote is a Sunday picnic. Wow. ETFs on OpenAI, unusual activity in Apple Computer. My goodness. Raytheon, the defense stocks for the military industrial complex, news on it. So the S&P minis, these are all minis. S&P's off 25, the Nasdaq 100 off 153, Dow Jones minis off 224. The Dixie 99.2, 99.645. 10-year at 110-270. Got to watch that yield on that yield curve on the 10-year. Crude oil up huge at like $114, $115 a barrel, very actively traded. Nat gas is up too at 2.865. Gold up $20 at $4,700 an ounce. Silver's hanging in there at $72. My goodness, people. Now, look at this. Tesla, NVIDIA, Apple Computer, Micron Tech, SanDisk, Broadcom, United Healthcare's up huge. Intel's in play. Microsoft, Mr. Softy, and Advanced Micro Devices. Corn and soybeans. The stock Corteva, stock symbol TVA, CTVA. Sorry, it's a tongue twister. So this is what we have. A lot of news. Is this end times, the end of days? You got Russia, North Korea, South Korea, the Crimea Peninsula, the oil market, the Straits of Hormuz, United Arab Emirates, Iran, Qatar. Are they going to shut down the oil supply and then fertilizer? All of the fertilizer, much of the world's fertilizer travels through the Straits of Hormuz, ammonia and different components. How is this going to affect the commodity market? Wheat, the breadbasket of Europe is described as the Crimea area and the Ukraine. So how is this war? You don't hear much about the Ukraine war anymore, but a lot of food supplies travel in Ukraine and are produced there. And then also too, look at places like Egypt and Bangladesh. They import most of their food from around the world. And if they can't get food, there could be some very serious food shortages. Now's the time to prep, people. Now is the time to prep. I'm a prepper. So check out, what do you think? Leave comments below. I just kind of read the news to myself every day. I want to welcome all my new subs. And tell me what you think. Is this World War III? Should we be planting crops right now? Now is the time to be looking at planting food items. Yesterday I had Copy AI for the go-to-market AI workflows for Kindle edition. You can check out the links below in my previous video. But this is something else too, going over the news and seeing, I'm not a financial advisor, I have to say that. But this, the stock market is saying here too, the S&P 500 dividend yield is at a 50-year low. And so are stocks overbought? Are we going into the next GFC? Is Peter Schiff right? Or is it up only? We're going to get the huge pump, like the Weimar Republic pump, where we see the next stock market correction, but after, many years from now. So we shall see, what happens with that. Looking at my next book that I penned here recently, and when you look at the different books that I publish and everything too, you can check it out. I wrote a book on Perplexity Masterclass from Search. Oh man, Perplexity is amazing. Check out my ebook. You see the links below. The Perplexity Masterclass. So are you still shifting through endless search results, clicking on irrelevant links and struggling to find concise, accurate information? In today's digital world, the old way of searching is obsolete. Check out my link on Perplexity Masterclass. Tell me what you think. So enough from our sponsors. I do affiliate marketing for myself, for my own products. Let's go over the news on Yahoo Finance. We're going to look at all of the news here and see, man, it's on again, off again. Are we going to have war, peace, the time for the ticker tape parade where the war's going to end and then Iran's going to comply with the Straits of Hormuz opening? U.S. strikes Kharg Island as Trump repeats THREAT to destroy Iran. Attacks on Iran's key oil export hub comes as Trump ramps up THREATS's of massive bombing to force a reopening of the Straits of Hormuz. Iran's got big allies: Russia, China, North Korea. The BRICS nations. We got to look at Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It feels like the good old US of A is going to war with the BRICS nations. Again, here on Yahoo Finance, stocks slide as Trump's Iran deadline puts market on edge. People are saying this: SpaceX, how to buy in before the IPO. Everyone's anticipation of the SpaceX IPO. Artemis 2, record-setting moon flyby. The dark side of the moon. We've seen that. People could imagine it, but the first time people have actually seen it. It's unreal. So, used car prices hit highest level since 2023 and could push higher. Chicago Fed nervous about impact of oil shock. The Fed could raise interest rates up like we saw in the early 80s to 18-20%. I know that sounds inflammatory, but we could see a hyperinflation bubble beyond belief in order to fight the CPI and PPI numbers and hyperinflation. And we could see the oil price take this economy up huge into the next GFC times 10 like we saw in 2008-09. Then we get the big dippy dip. Either way, I'm a prepper. So is it a full-scale ATTACK or another pause? Markets wait as Trump's Iran deadline approaches. It's going to be a whole new civilization, it says. Oil surges past 110 as Trump's deadline looms. So looking at, again, the price of oil is 114. The key targets for oil breakout is $148 a barrel, and that's in 2008 dollars. And then adjusted for inflation for 2026, it's $250 approximately. So those will be two areas to watch for resistance. If we get a breakout above 150, we can see a pump to $250 per barrel on crude oil. And then if it breaks above 250, it could pull price action like silver bullion did above 55 and have this parabola. We could see possibly crude oil break above 250 and then double again, go to $500 to $700 per barrel. Now that sounds preposterous, but silver bullion did it. No one thought it could do so. So Anthropic touts AI cybersecurity with big tech partners. CrowdStrike. Mideast oil output sees dropping by 9 million a day. 9 million barrels a day. I've read that in most of the world's strategic, crude oil reserves end today, are no longer effective, where they've drained down or been released. So that's why I think there's all this news reel about opening up the Straits of Hormuz. So we're in a tough time right now, people. We got to pray for all the countries that don't have food security and the people who don't have such. FOMC leadership not in question amidst slow war confirmation. Shale drillers see lifting crude output. So shale and fracking. So the frackers are back. Risk off. His crypto stocks again. The cryptocurrency Bitcoin tries to hold within that 68,000 range. Cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, it's only worth what people are willing to pay for it. So Ethereum's off 2%, Bitcoin's off 2%. Had a nice pump though in Bitcoin from 66,000 up to 70,000. Is Bitcoin going to hold? We shall see. So top active stocks today, Hologic Inc., Intel's in play, Nvidia's active, Nokia and Plug Power, very active stocks. So Bitcoin, let's see. I mean, we've got a lot of news, folks. I just go over the news and stay with me to the end. I give you free alpha. I go over my trading plan. Food security and water, having water security, and then recognizing the importance of having food and water, food, shelter, clothing, transportation needs, and everything. I have 2 electric bikes that I use solar panels and a solar charger to recharge so that I covers 95% of my transportation needs. So that's what I have for my, I have one car, mine is an electric hybrid car, a Toyota RAV4 XLE. It sips fuel, but it's still pain at the pump. Food, I'll tell you, the northern hemisphere, and southern hemisphere with South America, China again gets 30% of its food, if I'm not mistaken, from South America. And then North America, now is the time to plant crops, but there could be a shortage of ammonia and all the different fertilizers necessary to facilitate crop production. There will be a crop yield this fall, October, November here in the Northern Hemisphere, but it could be, 90% less. So that could cause, and I kind of like playing chess, trying to think, okay, the moves ahead now is it could cause a famine here in North America. So now is the time to begin stocking up on food, seeds, organic food seeds, and growing your own vegetable garden for food and having water security. Where I'm at here in North Florida, there's a drought. We've had the worst drought conditions in 14 years. It's a reason that I use my agentic AI app called weathermist.com. It combines agentic AI, artificial intelligence, with meteorology. So it's like having your own meteorologist on your smartphone. Check out the links below for weathermist.com. So how do I survive and thrive in this environment? So, I offer solutions rather than just kind of complaining about how tough times are. Times are tough, but you got to think, people. Got to think, and then how do you survive? So Bitcoin is 100% downtrend. So I'm going to dollar cost average it. SPY ETF, the yield so low on S&P 500 because the stocks are trading at 350% of GDP. GDP revision upward though because of hyperinflation. So we shall see how that plays out. I'll DCA SPY ETF. The blockchain ETFs are oversold. Ethereum looks oversold. FSOL, and the XRP. So that's where I'm readjusting my baskets. I got all of that pump on the parabola on the silver bullion 3 months ago. So we saw a good trade there. So now I'm looking at raw land, fine art, XRP, Ripple, and then also real estate and looking at it and how to back the truck up and purchase some properties. So tell me what you think. Is this World War III? Is it the end of times? How do we survive? My goodness, I mean, NATO, there's discussion about the U.S. apparently ditching NATO, and then many of the countries aren't backing up the U.S. in trying to open the Straits of Hormuz with Iran. So now's the time to prep, people, to get our ducks in order type of thing, and to think about Perplexity Masterclass, and increasing your skill set. Check out my links below on my ebook. Monitor weather every day. So running about 15 minutes or so. So that's what we have, folks. Now is the time to prep. If you don't have emergency food supplies, again, today's Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Got a lot of news. And how do we, it's one thing to complain about it. I'm concerned about how to survive all of this, but I do full-time research for myself. My channel's getting a lot of traction, a lot of new subs, and I want to welcome all my new subscribers on Twitter, on X, so X seems to be really good. Google's awesome, but X and Twitter is awesome too. So that's what I have. Tell me what you think, with Kharg Island. Sending in the paratroopers and ground forces. Is there going to be a ground war? And then, my goodness, top gainers. United Healthcare is very active. And Sasol Limited, SSL. That stock, that's an oil company, right? Sasol. So that's all I have is Sasol. Bitcoin dipping. My goodness. My goodness, we got a lot of news, people. So I'm so fortunate. I say this every day too. I give thanks for my abundant supply now manifested. I have it now. Stocks dipping. The Dow Jones is off. We've entered correction territory. The only value I see is in real estate stocks. Companies like Realty Income, stock symbol O, pays a monthly dividend. Stock's cheap. IT shares are flying high. So this real estate sector looks oversold to me, but I give free alpha. So I'm backing the truck up on XLRE. That looks oversold over the last decade. So if we do have a big dippy dip, the stock sector who performed the worst in the last decade, the real estate sector should be all right. So pays almost a 3.5% dividend. So that's all I have for today. Peace in the Middle East. Trump, and Macron in France and Europe. Europe importing, they don't have any oil. Russia used to import oil to Europe, and now they're not going to get much oil. So we're seeing fuel shortages all over Europe, and China with food shortages. And China's cheap gas tank for Venezuela is no longer there. So what's China going to do, in Russia? So that's what we have, people. Running about 19 minutes, but do me a favor, like and share. Tell me what you think. And have a super wonderful, great day. Thanks, everyone.